Yo, sup, this is Ny3. Now, with Shining Victory's official release just around the corner, this coming Friday in fact, I just wanted to take these couple of days before its release, which is when I will be posting a new deck profile, as well as a couple of new combos, to make a mini-series where we go through the history of how the Yangzing deck developed from its Duelist Alliance beginnings to where it is right now. So Duelist Alliance era, late 2014, so we're going quite a while back with this first video. Personally, I have been playing around with this deck as soon as we knew what the cards did when they were announced in the OCG. You know, I read Baxia Brightness of the Yangzing, and I knew that that card has very good spamming capabilities. I knew that, but there was no ways to actually do that, to actually spam Baxias back in Duelist Alliance format. So what I had to do is take a step back and play a lot of traps. Now this is not my usual playstyle. My usual playstyle is always being heavily combo orientated. So building this deck in Duelist Alliance era was actually quite a challenge for me. But I forced myself to do it just because of Baxia. Now when I read Baxia, I saw a lot of potential in the deck, and I just wanted to get a head start on everyone else with Yangzings to know the deck inside out, and it was well worth it because nearing the end of the Duelist Alliance era, the Yangzing deck that I have created was in no way weaker than the top 3 decks, being Burning Abyss, Tellarknights, and Shadows. It could consistently beat all of these decks, and it's a deck that I would confidently take to any large-scale event. If you guys can't remember that far back, the other viable strategies back then included Batterymen as well as Shibis, being a combination of Burning Abyss and Shadows. So this deck is very trap heavy. I was only running 13 monsters at this point. That being the 3 Chiwans, 1 Pulao, triple Bixie, triple Bian, and triple Swani. The spell lineup, I ran 1 Shard of Greed, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Mind Control, 1 Soul Charge, triple Yangzing Path, a Book of Moon, and triple MST. This format was extremely Vanity's Emptiness orientated or dictated, which is why the 3 MSTs were very important against every matchup, because every deck at that time mained the triple Vanity's Emptiness, which is not very beneficial when we're running a deck full of floaters that want to special summon. The Book of Moon was very strong against Burning Abyss. The triple Yangzing Path did clog, especially when you added Soul Charge to the mix, but you had to run these. Whenever I cut Path down to 2, the grind game just becomes so difficult, and you actually had to factor in absolutely every single card in your deck when you play this in Duelist Alliance format, because your main strategy was to hunker down, make the game very slow, and approximately a third of my games ended in deck out. So that was the pace of this deck in that format. And despite the fact that you couldn't actually search anything, you still had to take into account every single card in your deck when you're deck building or playing, just because you are expecting to actually draw all 40 cards in the deck. Mind Control was a pretty decent card against Shadows. Although you don't exceed summon much, Shadows do run a tuner that is the Falco, and mind controlling that gives you quite a decent jump start to your plays. Dark Hole was a pretty good staple. Shard of Greed, every time I draw it, I would be able to pull it off. The draw 2, their back row removal often have to hit some of your more important traps instead of Shard of Greed. However, the trap lineup is obviously pretty big. I ran 1 Call of the Haunted, triple Skill Drain, which is the main card of the deck that allowed it to compete, 1 bottomless trap hole, 1 compulsory evac, 1 dimensional prison, 1 dust tornado, triple mirror force, double skill prisoner, 1 solar morning, and double wiretap. So before we talk about the traps that we ran, I think a lot of people might have noticed what I didn't run, and that is Yang's in creation. Now, Yang's in creation, a lot of people thought was the whole point of why you would run this deck. And I strongly disagree with that. I think it is the worst card in the deck. What Yang's in creation did was let your floaters float twice as hard. But since it is a Vanity's Emptiness dictated format, what you're allowing your opponent to essentially do is to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Their 1 Vanity's Emptiness is going to lock out both your Yang's natural floating abilities as well as Yang's in creation. Other cards such as Shadow Window was really relevant, and it did a similar thing, that being not caring about Yang's in creation. Now, at first, I thought Yang's in creation was the focal point of the deck. I found it extremely lackluster and tried many different inconsistent ways to make it work. So I'm talking about cards like Nefarious Archfiend. I'm talking about cards like running scrap hybrids, so you scrap storm. I'm talking about running bad cards such as Thunder Crash. I'm talking about variants such as the Fire King hybrid. You know, these variants were all stemmed from trying to make Yang's in creation good. But one day I just thought, you know, why don't we just stop running Yang's in creation? So Yang's in creation came out for the triple mirror force, which is easily the MVP of this deck, and why I felt like this deck was so successful. Now, mirror force is a +1 out to Vanity's Emptiness. Just that is enough to warrant the 3 mirror forces in the main. Dust Tornado, as well as the triple MST, are all there as a +1 out to Vanity's Emptiness. Even the wiretaps, Burning Abyss and Tellarknights ran a lot of traps, but the main thing you still want to be hitting is those Vanity's Emptiness. Now, what you want your traps to cover was not really what you could have covered with your Yangzings in the first place. Now, your Yangzings are amazing defensive cards on their own. So pretty much you wanted to identify what it is exactly that got around the floating capabilities of Yangzings. So Winder, Dweller, Vanity's Emptiness, these cards all lost to Mirror Force. You Mirror Force Winder and everything else they had, and all they're left is a single Winder, because that can't be destroyed by card effects. And at that point, you don't really care about the Winder. You can special summon once per turn, and they only had 1 attack per turn. If they Dwelled, switched all of their monsters to attack mode, and try to run over your floaters, again you Mirror Force them. If they try to run over your floaters, flip the Vanity's Emptiness, Mirror Force a +1 out to Vanity's Emptiness. Now, the skill drain is the true focal point of this deck. If you skill drain Burning Abyss, they had no real ways to put excessive damage on board. If you skill drain Tellarknights, they can't do anything. If you skill drain Shadows, they have no way of getting over your floaters. The skill prisoners were especially useful. Against Tellarknights, skill prisoners would be stopping their castels, spinning your Yangzings back to the deck. Skill prisoners have 2 uses. You don't really mind if skill prisoner gets removed by back row removal, since it does exactly the same thing in the graveyard. Skill prisoners also stopped Shadow Dragon. Quite often, Shadow players would not main MSTs, and they would be overly dependent on the Shadow Dragon to remove back row, to remove your skill drain especially. But once skill prisoner would be able to negate 2 Shadow Dragons, and is quite often game breaking. The rest of the one-off traps were pretty decent. The only one that I did not run was the Torrential Tribute. I think Torrential Tribute was absolutely garbage, because Burning Abyss and Shadows do not care if they get Torrential Tributed. Tellarknights, you actually have no chances to Torrential Tribute them without making your own Yangzings miss timing. All of the Tellarknight monsters have a trigger effect on summon, which means Torrential Tribute must be chainlinked 2 in that matchup, unless you're torrentialing yourself on your own turn when you summon something. So it was really terrible. It wasn't good against anything, that's why I didn't run it. Call of the Haunted. Call of the Haunted was a pretty good card since all of your Yang Zings had the effect to synchro summon on your opponent's turn. The reason I only ran one was because your back row gets clogged up really quick, since once they find out that you're playing Yang Zings, they won't really be doing anything. They'll be playing a very passive game, which means not only are your traps not that live sometimes, no, quite often you'll have 5 back row set. And Call of the Haunted staying there even after you synchro with the monster did contribute even more to the back row clog. But as I said, very slow gameplay for Yang Zings at this point. The extra deck is very synchro based. The Mistbird Colossalus. There were people playing Rogue back then. I encountered Evil Storm quite a decent amount of time, and Mistbird was just extremely easy out to Ophion. I think it was also pretty important that you run one of these small, low-level synchros, since sometimes you find yourself on very low life points. Some of the Yang Zings are forced to summon in attack mode, and you'll have these 0 attack Yang Zings on the field in attack mode. Maybe you had to normal summon a Big C. You wanted to go for the big synchro play. However, they stop it with Vanities. Maybe you set your Mirrorforce or your Dust Tornado, which can out the Vanities on their turn. But since you have a 0 attack monster and you're on really low life points, you really need Mistbird to be in your extra deck to not die. It came up quite a few times, that's why it's here. Underworld Fighter Balmung, when it gets destroyed by card effects, it can reborn something from your graveyard, a level 4 or lower. The main way to summon this is to summon it as battle immune with 1+3, 3 being the BN. So it was really good. It was also 2100 attack, which crashed into a lot of relevant things back then. 101 was 2100 attack, that was quite relevant. Morale attack was 2100 attack, which was also quite relevant. So he was a very good level 4. Also note that Herald of Arclight didn't come out until the next set. 5s, I have Samsara Dragon of Rebirth, Catasta, and Armades. Armades being very good against every deck. You usually make it with Suani, so it's 2800, and it would just be running over Dante's, and all the materials under Dante, as well as Dante itself, can't float. Armades was also a safe attack into anything Shadow, be it a flip monster or a fusion. Catasta was there to out things like BLS. Every turn BLS is on the field, it's going to be a +1. So you definitely needed to answer that really quickly. And Samsara Dragon of Rebirth is just something that did not miss timing, so when they try to make you miss timing, you would quick synchro into the Samsara and float. Its reborn effect, sometimes you get pretty interesting things back. For example, your opponent's BLS. You make it with Suani, 3100 defense. Now 5 was actually the most made level back in Duelist Alliance era. You usually only pull off 1 to 2 synchro plays throughout the duration of any given game. That's how slow it was, so you had to make everything count. The only level 6 I was running was a Goyo Guardian. Goyo Guardian, you can use it to take their Shadow Falco and make some cool synchros with it, such as Stardust, which is able to negate something, and then it's treated as a monster that was summoned from the graveyard instead of the extra deck to play around cards like Shadow Fusion. Goyo at this point was also just the best level 6, just came off the ban list, 3300 attack with Suani, pretty good. The Black Rose Dragon, although Baxia outclasses Black Rose Dragon in pretty much any scenario, sometimes you just can't get that 8 levels on the field, and you could only make a 7, so Black Rose Dragon was just there as a level 7, not as good Baxia, but it still came up enough. Stardust Dragon, you didn't need the Big C anti-trap on this monster while you had Skill Drain up. and it was just a really good way to protect your skill drain, the main win condition of the deck. Triple Baxia. Although summoning one usually ends the duel, because you've summoned one, you can easily summon the next one, and then easily summon the third one. The level 9 I ran was Mistworm. Trishula was still on the ban list at this point. Although Baxia was better than Mistworm in most cases, again, sometimes you just have level 9, you can't get level 8. So that's when you would summon the Mistworm. It's usually summoned with 3500 attack as well, because you'll use 2 Suanis and a Chiwen to summon it. Mistworm also did not miss timing, so even if you summon it as Chain Link 2 or higher, it's going to be able to bounce 3 cards back. The level 10 Leo can't be targeted, and you'll have at least 3 different buffs to it. No, very hard to clear, unless you're versing against Shadows, in which case you should not be leaving any Synchros up on the field anyway, since they'll just get a free Shadow Fusion into Construct. The final Synchro is Star Eater. Now, Star Eater you usually summon using all 5 Yangzings being level 11. 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4 just happens to add up to 11. So you can summon it with every single available buff there is, and he also has his own self-protection, being immune to everything when he attacks. But the main reason for Star Eater and Leo as well was as a dodge to summon when you have Baxia on board. So for example, when you had Baxia, Chiwen, and Bixie, or Baxia, Chiwen, and Pulau, and they try to Castel your Baxia, you can quick dodge into Star Eater or Leo. Black Horn of Heaven was quite a popular side card back then, and Star Eater being unable to be negated was quite a relevant effect to have. I ran 1 Exceed, that being Livia the Sea Dragon. A popular side deck choice was Chain Disappearance for Burning Abyss, but they could also Chain Disappearance quite a few of the Yangzings. The most important one that you don't want to get Chain Disappearance was the Chiwen. You'll lose all 3 Chiwens and be forced to play the rest of the game without a tuner, so without access to any of your Synchros, and Livia was just one of the ways that you could get back the Chiwen into circulations, so you didn't auto lose to that. And since you didn't really utilize your extra deck that much, might as well have the Livia as a safety net. You did win probably half your games without even touching the extra deck. You just flip skill drain, summon your 1900 floating beaters, stun them out with traps. That was the playstyle of this deck in Duelist Alliance era. It was pretty refreshing for me to play, since I always play combo decks. At the same time, it was also quite frustrating to experience such slow gameplay, which I was not that used to. As I said, it was pretty worth it. I got the deck to a very competitive level that did not lose to anything in that format except a horrible Battery Man matchup. But that's this video. See you at the next video where we head off to next challenges.